In this video, we take a look at some of the important features of your graphing calculator. First, let's locate the on button, and then the second button. This is a lot like the shift key. In order to turn your calculator off, you'll push second, and then the on button. Next, find the enter key. This is a lot like an equal symbol. Next to it, you'll find the negative button. It's really important to notice that negative is different from subtract on this calculator. The next key we look at is the delete key, and then the arrow keys are right beside it. In order to cause your screen to be darker, you're going to alternately push the second key and up, like this. To cause your screen to become lighter, for example, maybe right after you change your batteries, we push second and down, like this. If you've made a mistake in what you've typed and you'd like to fix it, you can use those arrow keys again. Arrow over to whatever character you'd like to change, type over it, and then press enter. The next button that we'll use a fair amount is the clear button. This can be used to clear a single line by pushing once, or clear the entire screen by pushing for a second time. If perhaps you've cleared too much and you'd like to bring an entry back, there's a way to do that without having to retype. In order to do this, we push the second key and then enter. That brings up the last command that you entered in. Pushing second and enter again will scroll back through other commands. One issue that students often have when they begin this course is that there's no percent button on our graphing calculators. But that's all right. We've learned how to represent percentages using decimal numbers. The next button that we use on our graphing calculator is the squared key. Simply enter the number that you'd like squared and use that key. In order to take a square root, we'll use second and then the squared key to get the square root symbol. It has an open bracket beside it. Type in your value, type the close bracket, and hit enter. In order to cube, we have two possibilities. We can begin with our value, use this little button that looks like an upside down V, sometimes called a hat or a caret, and then type the value of the exponent. Alternately, for cubing, you can press the math button. This brings up a menu where you can see cubed is the third option, and find your 7 cubed that way. If you're asked to find the value of 7 to the power of 5, we have to use the hat button. If you'd like to find a cube root, we have two ways to do that. You may have noticed that in your math menu there's a cube root option. The math menu also has an any root option that looks like this. You have to type the value of the root first, in this case a 3 for cubed, and then the symbol, and then the value. So here, for example, is taking the 6th root of 729. Your calculator can also do some really handy things with fractions. It can simplify a fraction by going to the math menu and choosing the first option, converting to a fraction, which will always give us the fraction in lowest terms. If we perform a calculation such as subtraction, you can convert that decimal number to a fraction in lowest terms. We can also multiply with our calculators, and divide fractions with our calculators. We can even take exponents of fractions, in this case 7/2 squared. Some students type it like this. However, that's a mistake. Our calculators follow the order of operations, so they see the exponent of squaring as happening before the dividing. This will not give us the correct answer. In order to tell the calculator we'd like to square the entire fraction, we use a set of brackets. Another really helpful feature of our calculator is the ability to ask it to work with the answer it just gave us. We do this using the second and then the negative keys. So imagine you want to use the answer that was equal to the square root of 5. Imagine that we want to take this answer and multiply it by 4.2. You can simply type multiply by 4.2 and the calculator will understand to multiply the answer. You can also use second and negative to use that answer value anywhere in an expression. For example, the square root of our answer subtract 4. The alpha key gives us another possibility. In order to type the letter, we're going to use the alpha key and then the matching letters. Notice on your keyboard there are a whole bunch of letters that are the same color as your alpha key. We also have the ability to store. This works well with the alpha key. If we'd like to store the square root of 5 as a, take that value, press your store button, and then alpha, and enter the a, or whatever letter you'd like to store as. This now means that we can use that value in other expressions very quickly, and we'll keep all the precision after the decimal. When we'd like to graph, there are several buttons at the top of the calculator that are very helpful to us. Here's the y equals button, the zoom button, and the graph button. If we'd like to graph y equal to 1/2 x subtract 4, we start by pushing the y equals button. In this case, there's already an equation there, so I'll use the clear button to get that spot to be blank. We'll enter our 1/2. It's always a good idea to wrap our fractions in brackets. Multiplied by, and for x, now let's use our variable button right next to alpha. And finish off our equation. We push graph, and my graph on screen doesn't look like what the teacher has on her screen. An easy way to fix that is to push the zoom button. Let's go back to option 6, the standard zoom. This is often what we expect to see, and now our graphs probably match. Some common errors with the calculators. If you have a syntax error, this means you made a mistake in your typing, and you can choose the Go To option to see where that mistake is. A non-real answer error means you ask the calculator to do something impossible, for example, the square root of a negative. A domain error is sort of the same idea. You've asked the calculator to do something impossible, but more likely in our trigonometry unit working with sine, cosine, and tangent. Let's imagine that we're graphing and our calculator gives us an invalid dimension error. This is often because of these plots at the top of your y equals screen that have black boxes around them. So we need to turn the plots off. Arrow up until your cursor is on top of the black box and push enter so that it's turned off. Our goal in working with this graphing calculator is to be able to make efficient use of it to save us time, and we'll be able to use that time to think about how to solve more complex questions.